What's up guys, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my immigration story to Canada. Disclaimer, I'm not an immigration expert. I'm just sharing with you my personal experience and hopefully you find this helpful. So if you'd like to know more, definitely keep watching.
Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in the cage, I'ma let out the wake up, get out the sheets. We came for one man, forget that peace. Take the west side.
So I'm just going to start from the very beginning, and I must say that you should please bear with me if you see me looking down. I have my computer right beside me. This happened about 2-3 years ago, and I honestly can't remember all the details, but I'll try to be as detailed as possible. And yeah, so let's get right into it. So first quarter of 2018 I got engaged, and my now husband, then fiance, was already in Canada, and of course we started having the talk of, you know, plans of me joining him, how we're going to make it happen and all of that. So considering all the criteria of the different programs available, we decided that the spousal sponsorship was the best bet for us at the time. Now, a spousal sponsorship is when a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident in Canada sponsors his spouse, his or her spouse or common law partner, to become a permanent resident. And for this to happen, they have to be legally married. They have to show proof that of their relationship. Now, in our case, we were just engaged, we were not married, so we needed that proof. Now, even though we knew that that was where we were going to, we still needed something in the interim, you know, so that, I mean, if I wanted to visit, pending when we eventually got married and, you know, begin the process for the spousal application, I could go whenever I wanted. So we said, you know, why not try the visiting visa? So we did our research, and because I mean it was a pretty quick application, you don't really need much for a visiting visa. So we were able to compile all our documents. From his end, all he needed to do was just write a letter of invitation to say, look, I'm inviting my fiance over. And from my end, I had more work to do. So firstly, I was able to get letter from work. I was able to get my pay stub and all of that, just to show that, you know, I had work and all of that. My bank statements, and of course my travel history. So I'd like to mention this actually because I feel like that's part of the reasons why this application was approved, as you later come to find out. So our travel history, I was able to get tickets of a few years back when I traveled from London to visit him in Manchester. So I was able to get the bus and train tickets that I used that time to prove that, you know, we have a relationship. And because we've also dated for a while, I was able to get pictures, screenshots of our messages, because we did a lot of long distance. So I was able to put all of that, you know, everything that we basically needed to make that application tight, I put it in there. I didn't leave room for any loopholes. Anything that I thought, you know, would make them raise an eyebrow, I was able to close that gap. So we did all of that, compiled all the documents, and you know, we paid the fees, put in the application, and I think about 48 hours later or so, I went for my biometrics, and then we waited. Now, we didn't have any expectations, zero expectations, guys. You know, this thing was just, let's just try, you know, if I get it, fine. If I don't, it's all good. I'm going to do my spousal application anyways, and I'm going to move anyways. But you guys, it took less than, I don't know, maybe 4 weeks. And normally it takes longer than that, I know that for sure. But it's one thing to have zero expectations, it's another thing for it to come out sooner than you think. So yeah, we got the mail that I should come submit my passport, and I was shocked. I was so excited because I wasn't really expecting to get approved that early, you know. So we got the application, it was good, it was exciting, and yeah, and this was, if I'm correct, this was like middle of the year. My husband relocated in April of that year, and all of this happened around middle of the year, say about July, August-ish. And so after we got the visiting visa, of course, so we started thinking of long-term plans. So I mean, back to our drawing board, which was the spousal application. So we started making plans as to how to make that possible. And remember I told you guys that for the spousal application you need to be married. Now we're already engaged, we knew we were going to get married anyway, so we decided that, you know, he needed to come home. So January of 2019, my husband came home and we had our formal family introduction. So his family came over to my house, you know, met everyone, we introduced ourselves, you know, the normal Yoruba introduction thing with the gele and all the apparels and everything. So it was nice, and you know, that was that for that. And then of course a couple of days later we had the main thing, which was the civil ceremony that would enable us to get the marriage certificate. So we had that at the Ikoyi registry, and yeah, guys, we're married. So that was good. And when it was time for him to go back to Canada, we went back together, because remember I told you guys that, you know, I had my visiting visa already and I could go, I had 5 years, so I could go and come back as I wished. So we decided to, you know, it would be nice for me to actually travel, so we decided that we would go back together. So we came back to Canada together. It was our first international trip together actually, so it was fun. We took lots of pictures, and you know, it was, Nigeria to Canada is a long flight, so we had layovers, and you know, it was really nice.
Deep up in my feelings, here I go again.
So we got back to Canada the first week of February 2019, and even though it was supposed to be go, we had to take a step back because I had to write my last ACCA exam. Now ACCA is a global accounting body, which I'm now a certified member of, but at the time I still had one more paper to write. So I said, and it was going to be a month from when we landed. So I just said, I mean, why don't wait for me to write my exams, and then after that we can now start talking about my applications and all of that. So I decided to, you know, use that month, so between February, the first week in February when we landed, to March, to actually prepare for my exams. And I wrote my exam in March. It was just one exam, so I wrote my exam in March, and thank God I aced it. And yeah, so we were able to start the application. After my exam, so we decided it was time for us to, you know, start my application. We did a little bit of research, and we realized that, you know, we could actually apply for a work permit whilst waiting for the spousal application to come through. So what I mean by that is the Canada immigration had the option of applicants submitting a work permit with your spousal application. So the Canadian immigration gave you that option, where if you're inland, you could apply for your spousal sponsorship and also apply for a work permit, right? Which makes sense. So that while waiting for your application, your spousal application to come through, you could, you know, start working and earning money and paying taxes, right? So yeah, so there's that option. The application was a paper application. For a work permit, there are two types. So there is the open work permit and there's the employer specific work permit. I did the open work permit, which would allow me to work for any employer in Canada. An employer specific work permit would restrict you to some certain employers. So I applied for the open work permit and alongside my spousal application. Now for the work permit, you know, they would ask for your work history, your personal information, you know, all the things that would make them make an informed decision as to whether you're eligible for that work permit. And on the spousal application side as well, there are two sides to it. Now they need to assess the sponsor, which in my case was my husband, and also assess me. So they need to check that my husband was eligible to sponsor me, and also check that I am eligible for sponsorship and also permanent resident, because that's what I was going for. So I'm just going to be reading to you guys on the Canada.ca website what the eligibility criteria for a sponsor, that's my husband. So it says here that you can sponsor your spouse, your partner, or your dependent child if you're at least 18 years old, which was, he was at least 18 years old, of course. If you're a Canadian citizen, a permanent resident of Canada, or a person registered in Canada as an Indian under the Canadian Indian Act. It says if you're a Canadian citizen living outside Canada, you must show that you plan to live in Canada when the persons you want to sponsor become permanent residents. Now in my case, my husband was a permanent resident, so of course he checked that box, and he was also living in Canada. So they're saying here that if the person that is going to sponsor you doesn't live in Canada, he or she must show proof that when you become a permanent resident, they must live with you in Canada. You can sponsor your spouse, your partner, or your dependent child if you are able to prove that you're not receiving social assistance for reasons other than disability. So in Canada, there are so many social programs. For instance, employment insurance. So if you're out of job, for instance, your employment insurance will kick in. So if my husband was out of job at that time and he was receiving employment insurance, he would not have been eligible to, apply for me. But he had a job and he wasn't receiving employment insurance, so that was good as well. And lastly, it says you can provide for the basic needs of any persons you want to sponsor. Another important thing I'd like to mention is income requirements. In most cases, there isn't an income requirement to sponsor your spouse or partner or dependent child. You only need to show that you have enough money to meet the income requirements if you're sponsoring a dependent child that has one or more dependent children of their own, or you're sponsoring a spouse or partner that has a dependent child and their dependent child has one or more children of their own. So what that basically means is my husband would not have been eligible to apply for me if I had a dependent child, or if I was a dependent child and had another dependent child. But in our case, that wasn't the issue, so there was no child involved, so we were good on that front. So yeah, those are the criteria really for someone to sponsor you. And of course, the immigration would actually be the ones to assess you, and that's the whole point of the application, to check that you are also eligible to become a permanent resident. So yeah, so of course we filled out all the forms. As soon as we found out that we made the eligibility criteria, I filled out the forms, paid the fees and all of that, and we submitted. Now I didn't need to do biometrics because I had already done biometrics for my visiting visa, so that biometrics lasts for, it's either 5 or 10 years. I'll put it on the screen again just so that we have the right information. So I didn't need to go for biometrics, and we put in the application. Remember, it was a paper application, so we had to mail it through Canada Post. So mailed the application, and you guys would not believe that my application got returned. Yeah, it did. Silly mistake, we didn't pay the right fees. Now this is a lesson for you guys. If you're submitting any application online, please check that you're paying the right fees, check that you're not missing out any forms. Please also check that you're submitting the updated forms, because these forms get updated often, and you don't want to be sending them outdated forms. In my case, I didn't pay the correct amount, so they returned the application, and I had to send it back again and pay the differential, and that kind of delayed the processing time again. Remember, it was going to take 12 months, so imagine that back and forth, what it would do to the processing time. So we got it back, we sent it again and all of that. All this while the work application was together, so that also delayed the work permit application as well. So instead of 3 months, I'm waiting longer than that. So that happened, and the wait game started. I actually thought that I was going to get my work permit early and start work, but because of that back and forth, it got longer than I expected, and I just had to wait. Not like I had a choice, but I had to wait. While I was waiting though, I was keeping myself busy. I was reaching out to recruiters, I was doing online courses, I was telling employers that I was in the market and that I'm just waiting on my work permit. Once it's out, I'm going to hit the ground running and all of that. After we put in the application, we had to wait. We put in the application the second time, so that's after they returned it. And around May of 2019, I finally got approved. You guys, you can't imagine how excited I was. So I got approved, and so because I had already linked my paper application to my online profile, you can actually create an online profile on canada.ca, and then you can link whatever paper application to your online profile. So I'd already done that way before. So of course I'd been monitoring the progress of the application and all of that. So when I got approved, I could see it on my online profile that I've been approved. So yeah, so finally I was a permanent resident of Canada via spousal sponsorship. So that was in May of 2019, and about a month after, I got my confirmation of permanent residence, which we all know as COPR. So I didn't need to do like I didn't need to leave the country and re-enter. I didn't need to do that literally. I just needed to go to the immigration office, fill out some documentation, and oh, I missed out on the work permit. The work permit actually came out like a couple of weeks before my PR. So the approval was so close together that the work permit became it actually became useless, because the whole point of the work permit was to get a job, but I didn't get a job until I got my PR. So that's my story, guys. I'm sorry if this was all over the place. I'm not a great storyteller, but I hope that you got the message. I hope that you find this really helpful. If you know anyone who is currently in the situation that I was at the time and is a bit confused, please share this video with them. If you know anyone whose spouse is in Canada and they're looking for how to join them, please share this video with them to let them at least have an idea of what options they have, what they can do to join their spouse. And yeah, if you like this video, please click on the like button. Please leave comments in the comment section below. If you think I missed anything in this video, if I missed out any detail, please leave in the comment section below as well, so that we can learn from each other. And please, you guys, please subscribe, encourage your homegirl, so that I can do more videos like this. And if you have suggestions on the kinds of videos you'd like to see on this channel, please leave that in the comment section below as well. So I think we've come to the end of this video. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.
0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in the cage, I'ma let out the